Hey guys, Tyler here. Like 3 months ago, Written Lies had a suggestion for a video, which is how do you hide the crunch in crunchier RPGs? I had an idea for the video back then and just never ended up making it. But with Max's recent stream on how to 4D social skills, it reminded me of that question. I thought this was interesting. I'm not going to focus too much on the social skills part of things because I think he did that very well. But the social skills, there's one example, and it got brought up recently, which was sense motive. I can't remember who Shauner was watching, but they were talking about issues with sense motive, and somebody basically just makes a sense motive roll. They don't explain how they're making the sense motive roll. They're just sense motive 15. And then uh, even if they don't directly ask, do I know, can I see, etc., they're effectively opening the table for that to be asked, right? And I don't know what you're trying to do with that sense motive other than tell if they're lying or not, tell if they're telling the truth. And we get another issue where, well, if you roll really low, you now have meta knowledge that you have to fight against where you go, I know that I probably shouldn't trust whatever the GM's telling me because I rolled like crap. What's a way to hide that? Well, roleplay the skill for one. You know, I look into his eyes. I look at try to make eye contact with him to see if his eyes are darting back and forth and trying to be dodgy. I check if you're in a police interrogation, check his pulse. If it's a um, pre lie detector thing. Lie detectors are easy to cheat, but it makes for good drama. See, you know, and maybe you're even trying to get this guy to start panicking and reveal the truth off of that, and it's the sense motive is as much intimidation or insight if you prefer the 5e version, whatever your game has to suss out a particular character, whether or not they're lying or not. I'm kind of middling on whether or not I even like this as a skill in general. I think it should mostly be role played. I think you should probably just be saying, yeah, the guy's a little shifty, he's, twitchy, and then that might be because he's just nervous, he's in a stressful situation, he just killed somebody and it was in self-defense and he's worried, you're the cops, you're showing up and he's gonna go to jail on a wrongful charge and that's why he's super nervous, or he could be nervous because he legitimately killed the guy and that's for you to find out, not off of a single roll, right? And another thing, if you are having this off of a roll, don't just have that solve the entire encounter, right? This person believes themselves that this guy's lying, but they don't have any evidence for it other than their own hunch. So a lot of times I see, oh yep, they're lying, they go to jail, everything's solved off of a single roll. No, that's don't do that. um, that's just one example though. As far as hiding crunch in other ways, I think there's a lot of ways to do it, namely in equipment searching and playing the character sheet. You don't have to play the character sheet as a bad thing necessarily. And what I mean by that is when it's your turn to do something, even when it's other people's turn to do something, don't just silently stare at your character sheet going, oh, I could cast Fireball, but I think that thing's immune to fire. I got Lightning Bolt. Uh, or I could buff my friend. No, play your character. If you're confused, your character's flipping through their their spell book, looking at these things, or if they don't have a spell book, you're ensorceling with your hands and saying the magic words as you're stalling for 10-15 seconds trying to find a spell that fits the particular situation. Think channeled spells in Skyrim, the big destruction spells that take a while to activate, spells in your favorite setting in general. Um, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But plenty of settings have the ritual built in, not necessarily ritual casting as we think of it as a game mechanic, which implies that it takes hours. It's not useful in combat effectively, but the ritual behind casting. All of the spells in traditional Dungeons and Dragons style games have all of the stuff, the verbal, the somatic components, and things like that, and that's there for you to play out. It's not just I cast magic missile and it does 15 damage. No, I wave my hands and then shoot forth a magic missile, a bolt of light that strikes true at my opponent and shatters their ribs or whatever. And maybe as your caster is getting more comfortable with it, later and later on in the game, I'm gonna cast magic missile at this dude. Now I'm comfortable with the character. The character's comfortable with the spell now. So it becomes less flowy. It becomes less flashy. There's an economy of movement now, where it was, all this, hand movement, gesticulating, the glowing, the gathering of energy, very Dragon Ball Z like, the key charging, the rocks floating up around you. Now maybe it's just a flick, and then this bolt of energy comes out and just splatters somebody's head. Whatever. So there's an example of how to do it with magic. You're fiddling around in your components pouch. Eye of Newt, no. Yeah. And that requires some talent, or not talent, some working on the skill, the opposite of talent. It's not a naturally acquired thing for everybody. It requires an ability for you to bullshit while you are also looking at your list of spells in these games that have this big list of pre-written spells. Likewise, with equipment, you're looking at your bag of holding, which holds a crap ton of stuff, which I think is a great addition to explain in game why you don't have to micromanage weight. I think it's a really cool item for that reason, but it can lead to the issue of sword for killing humans, sword for killing demons, no, sword for killing. But that's never role played. A lot of times people are just going silent, so going, uh, is hey, did you say this thing's weak to silver or no, it's weak to cold iron. Oh, I think I got a cold iron dagger. But my cold iron dagger only does a d4 damage. Just as you're scanning the character, she go, my character's name, or I rifle through my bag. I'm looking for my dagger. I'm looking for the sword. I pull out the sword and then I cut the thing's head off. Or try to, anyways. So, those sort of dead times where you're trying to remember how a mechanic works or you're reading up on something, Stunning Fist. Let's take Stunning Fist. A way that the designers can alleviate this is by naming things after what they do. Pathfinder 3.5 even goes so far as to go, Stunning Fist, that's the name of the move. You can't do a stunning kick or a stunning knee. I don't think that's necessarily necessary, for lack of a better word, but it tells you exactly what it does. You don't have to hide your language in any sort of way when you're using that ability. I hit him with a Stunning Fist to his solar plexus. If you're reading, what does solar plexus do? Maybe your monk is doing, these forms, these katas, much like the wizard would do. He's hand trapping. I come over the top, block the hand down so I can throw an overhand straight into his solar plexus and Stunning Fist. Something like that, right? So the language then becomes about the setup to that hit landing. And again, this all ties back into the idea of describing your actions, describing your hits, and the like. So that's equipment, that's magic, that's fighting special abilities and feats and the like. The same applies for any other sort of combat feat that you might use. Reloading, if you're not sure if it takes one, two, or three actions to reload a gun, or if you're standard Swift, whatever your system may use to reload a gun, look at the ruling on that on your sidebar. And as you're doing that, you're saying, my character's fiddling with his rifle, tearing out the paper cartridge, biting it off, dumping the powder in, etc. And then you find out whether or not that's done on your turn. Or as you're doing that, the GM may just know how long that takes you and go, got it, and then move on to the next character because he knows that takes your whole round or whatever. I'm trying to think of other examples. This is basically just going to be a spitballing video where I just think of different examples of this happening at the table. Different scenarios of a game mechanic that you can hide. Movement. I sprint forward. I stride forward. I take a quick step back. There's your run, move, and 5-foot step actions in Pathfinder. Thinking of other things that you would need to hide mechanically? Metacurrencies. Metacurrencies are a difficult one. Metacurrencies, it really depends on what the metacurrency is trying to represent. If it's like something very vague, like mythic points in Pathfinder as well, drawing upon some internal or external power, gaining mythic points, I think The Witcher, a place of power, it must be. And there's just these rune stones across the world where you're gaining this ability. Something I'm toying with in my own system is the idea that subsystems should represent something in the character's world. It shouldn't just be something that has a different game mechanic because, I want to roll AD&D. I want to roll percentile for skills, but a D20 to hit. It's like, but why? Why are we doing two different things to? It's so you can roll two different kinds of dice, really. That's pretty much it. A D100 has a less linear curve to it, but then why didn't they use that for the to hit? Who knows? This is just totally random, and they never did it after that, so kind of goes to show you how questionable a design choice that was. Have a reason for it, right? If you've got some strange subsystem that totally changes the way the game plays, it should likewise represent that your characters are behaving differently. Let me know other examples you guys can think of in the comments. That's kind of just a little ramble real quick as I came to remember that Written Lies asked that question months ago and I never made a video about it. So, thanks. Thanks for watching as always.